Okay, this is likely to be a bit disjointed, but anyway, here goes. So when I was just thinking how like kind of left and right. I'll just leave it at the United States for now. The left-right divide in the country is something like the right. I mean, they're authoritarian basically. So they come from authoritarian parents, and they kind of bought into that authoritarianism, right? They they remain in this codependent relationship where it's like if I'm nice enough to daddy, daddy will protect me, smite my enemies, and give me what I need, and validate me, and tell me that what I think is right and good and whatever like that. And left tends to be people who may or may not have had authoritarian parents, um, but grew up in a rather authoritarian society in many ways. Patriarchal, extractive, etc. Um, and they didn't let it break them. They're like the Fred Trump of the family. It's like, yeah, I see how Daddy acts. I see how Donald acts. I don't want any part of it. I think it's bullshit. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna figure it out on my own somehow. I'm gonna do what I feel like doing. I'm gonna do what sings to my soul. I'm gonna stay. That thing kids naturally are. That thing that you hear from Anne Frank even in the midst of the Holocaust of like, I want to be good at heart even though I don't see any evidence that that's going to keep me out of the gas chambers. I want to be good at heart because that's who I am. I want to be good at heart because that feels right to me. But lefties are also left with a kind of complex because I mean they're told, "Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's naive. Oh, you'll change your tune when you're older and paying taxes and if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not as conservative when you're older, you have no brain." Like that's the soup we swim in. And then you look around and you see who has all the power. It's the authoritarians, and the people, the sellouts, right? So, I mean, artists historically regularly drink themselves to death. Fred Trump drank himself to death. Um, it can feel like the only real option is selling out or being some kind of naive lefty sucker. Nobody. Like that's our culture. That's where we live. Um, and you don't see a lot of counterexamples. It seems like everybody eventually sells out because guess who's all over the airwaves? Guess who's all over Congress? Guess who the CEOs are? They're sellouts because that's our culture. Our culture rewards sellouts. Our culture rewards extracting whatever you can by whatever means necessary and dominating others. And yeah, Donald Trump is just the kind of apotheosis of that impulse. I mean, it's like laid bare for everyone to see. And, the people who've been kind of maybe ashamed of being a sellout or being a racist or whatever, now all of a sudden it's just like, no, mask off, motherfuckers. Like, you lefty scolds made us feel bad for playing the game, the only game that we're allowed to play, the only game where we can succeed. Fuck you, soy boy. It's like, no, I'm proud. I'm proud to play this game. I'm proud to dominate. I'm proud to do whatever I have to do to protect my family. Um, and the whole immigrant crime thing, like, it's a cover. Like, if you actually look at the statistics, it's not the most dangerous thing, or even close. for your average American Trump voter, right? Um, but it gives them an excuse to be openly racist, openly vicious, openly domineering, proudly. It's like I'm not. They're like, I don't have to hide in the shadows anymore. This is it. This is fine. This is good. Daddy, tell me I'm a good boy. Yeah, he's telling me I'm a good boy. So fuck you. Yeah. So so what can anybody do who's a decent person other than, I mean, obviously, you know, billions of decent people keep the world turning such that it's not a complete and utter hellscape, such that relative progress has been made, such that it's not open warlordism in most parts of the world right now, even if there's little genocides we're sweeping under the carpet somewhere over there. I say that with like infinite sarcasm. There's no such thing as a little genocide. So yeah, so what else can we do other than, I mean, carrying on is important. Being who we are is important. Being a good teacher, a good counselor, a good therapist, a good waitress, everything matters. Every single bit of it. Every single bit of it is a part of the fabric of this reality. Um, Everything you can do to grow as a person will ripple out for the rest of your life. But anyway, just as kind of a thought experiment, I was thinking today that like you have this dynamic of, um, Daddy Trump, the authoritarian culture that tells us the only thing we can do to survive, Donald Trump, who buys into it, Fred Trump, who rebels against it and ends up drinking himself to death. Now, okay, most lefties don't drink themselves to death, thankfully, but they can certainly stress themselves into chronic illness and whatnot, cancer, um, if they become kind of so identified with, if they take it so personally, how nothing seems to fit them, how their culture seems to betray them, their family, their national family seems to betray them. It's possible. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's apparently possible to see all the cruelty in the world and in the neighborhood and in the country and everywhere else and remain healthy, calm, and happy and doing what you can without hatred, without resentment, without judgment. Not easy. It's very few people have managed it. Well, I don't know how many actually. I guess very few famous people because almost by definition they tend not to become famous. It's like it's not, the fame machine uh, doesn't run on kindness, generally speaking. What a mess. It happens. You find Jack Cornfield, Thich Nhat Hanh. You find prominent people who are known for being kind, but they tend not to be millionaires, much less billionaires, much less Congress people. Other than maybe Bernie Sanders, not perfect by any means, but among the best we've got. Um, but yeah, what should Fred Trump have done? How could Fred Trump stand up to everybody or find some kind of parallel path. I mean, the thing is, by definition, we don't want to play the fucking dirty game. We don't want to play it. Even if, and if we tried to play it, we probably wouldn't be very good at it because we have shame, we have standards. So what do we do? My thought today was that what we can do is we can grow up. That's one thing we can do. By which I mean get over our complex about being naive. Have our own firm ground to stand on. Our own firm ground isn't going to be worldly power. It isn't going to be power over. It isn't going to be domination. It isn't going to be special access. It isn't even going to be safety. Although, I mean, the more peaceful a place is, the more safe it is, generally speaking. Um, but a lot of people have bought into the idea that, you know, if you let those people have more access to resources, they're just going to use it to do to us what we've done to them. So they project their own cruelty onto others and say, no, we have to prevent that. And so they just perpetuate the cruelty indefinitely and try to grift from it in the meantime. I mean, a woman just got $500,000 for calling a child the N-word, you know. Um, and then somebody else went on Piers Morgan to try to grift from that by sticking up for the woman who made $500,000 by calling a child the N-word. I mean, like that's evidence of a very sick society. So how do we grow up? We on the left, I mean. I'm not holding my breath for people on the right to grow up anytime soon. Yeah, we find the kind of confidence that doesn't, I hate the word shrill because it's been misused because you could take somebody who's been abused and abused and abused and they finally like shout, fucking stop it. And then they get called shrill and discounted, dismissed. And that's not fair. But at the same time, there is something that humans recognize, which is a quiet, unshakable confidence that's much more, that can be much more convincing than a fuck the man kind of shout. And believe me, I've shouted fuck the man many times in my life. Where did it get me? Where did it get the world? I wrote a whole book with an even tone. Where did that get me? Where did that get the world? I don't know. I'm not saying there's any guarantee either way, but we were just talking, my husband and I were talking about Gabor Mate and the way that he talks about Palestine, in a way that even got Piers Morgan to shut the hell up for a minute. Because Piers Morgan, he throws bombs at everyone to try to get them to be shrill. So for ratings, so the haters can hate them and the supporters can rally behind them, and that's how things work these days. But Gabor was like the eye of the hurricane, just like calm, dignified, rational. And Piers Morgan actually listened to him. I mean, Piers Morgan couldn't rile him up, couldn't make him explode, couldn't turn him into a hypocrite, couldn't turn him into an angry teenager. Now, when your people have been demonized, I'm talking about like, Palestinians themselves, when your people have been demonized for decades and a genocide is happening as we speak. I mean, I still see a lot of Palestinians speaking with quiet dignity and reason, and most of the world ignores them. They're over there listening to the noise, listening to the hot takes and the screaming debates and whatnot. It's a lot to ask for somebody whose people are being genocided to be calm and rational, and I don't demand that of anyone. I never would. I'm saying people who have the chance, any people who have the chance, perhaps it would be useful to develop that sense of like I'm not what they portray me as. They portray me as, some latte sipping little um, egghead who wants to give everybody the exact same stuff, just like communist Russia, and let kids use litter boxes in the schools. Like, I mean, it's an absurd caricature. There's very little truth to it. Um, but it sticks through repetition and through they find people on the left who are frustrated and fed up and shouting, and then say, "Yeah, look, just like what we told you." So we have a gaslighting parent, emotionally abusive parent who doesn't want to see us, doesn't care about us, and what's the best thing to do in that case? When it comes to a parent, you got to learn to set and hold limits and boundaries calmly. Because if you set them angrily, then it means their hooks are still in you. And it means that they can still poke and prod and trigger you. And I don't blame abused people for being triggered. I've spent most of my life easily triggered. I still sometimes am easily triggered. I'm working on that. I'm working on developing this calm, solid confidence in who I am and what I stand for that isn't dependent on anything anybody says about me. I when I was first, wanting to be a writer, I thought, wow, so many writers were alcoholics. Should I be an alcoholic? And I think the conclusion I came to was, well, I don't feel like becoming an alcoholic, and I don't even like alcohol that much, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Um, but I think one of the reasons artists tend to have substance problems is because they have these impulses deep in their soul. They try to express it as well as they can. They generally aren't rewarded or given any particular power or success or adulation or, all the things that our society marks as success. Sometimes they are, and then that can be empty too. Um, But either way, they have these impulses and they see that it's so at odds with everything that they have to live among, and they feel powerless to improve their environment. And and it's hard for a sensitive soul to see all this suffering, to see all this bullshit. So very often they make their art and then they check out. They're like, all right, I'm done. See ya. I feel like I've been lucky in that these are times when we have access to more. Well, first of all, let me say humanity does, I mean, horrific, there's plenty of horrific things still going on. And in some ways, worse than ever. But in other ways, it's a more peaceful world than it's ever been. A lot of the structures that helped keep it peaceful are being torn down. Um, but what kind of peace was that? When, yeah, Europe isn't massacring itself, but who's being massacred by Europeans? Yeah, America's not in full-blown civil war, but who's being shot in the streets? Who's being shot in the classrooms? Who's being brutalized and occupied abroad? Maybe, the chaos agents of this regime are just laying it more and more bare to the point that more and more decent people can't close their eyes to the contradictions. I mean, I don't know. I really don't. It could just be hell in a handbasket, species failure, um, back to hunter-gatherer days until, who knows? Who knows? But that's the thing. I mean, that's the overall, seems to be an overall message of history, of life. Like, you think you know what's good and bad. You never know what's good and bad. You never know what the ultimate result of anything is. Was the bubonic plague bad? Did it lead to the Renaissance? Was World War II bad? Did it lead to space travel? You go on and on. Did it lead to a regime of human rights law that our AI right now is based on? I've been sort of chatting with AI bots about ethics and things like that, and they're like, oh yeah, well, our basic ethical framework is based on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's like, from where I'm sitting right here and now, it seems like a miracle that there's a universal Declaration of Human Rights. How did this species come up with that? Who the hell put them in power to come up with that? Obviously, it can be circumvented, it can be flouted, it can be whatever, but it's on the books. I mean, that's kind of astonishing. So who knows what next astonishing thing might happen? And who knows what's going to, precipitate it? But I think we on the left, we need to grow up. And I say that with all respect and all fondness and all humility because I need to grow up too. I'm still working on it. I'm sick of feeling like a teenager with an out of control parent. I'm sick of feeling like I can be so easily triggered. I'm sick of feeling like I'm always reacting to some bad shit somebody else is doing instead of building something that I want to see. Good news is we have more tools available than ever before to to grow up. Compassionate inquiry, IFS, plant medicine, circling, non-dual inquiry. I feel like non-dual inquiry it's definitely broadened my perspective and brought in more kind of wonder and appreciation for everyday things that I wouldn't trade for anything. And it really gives you strength to keep going when you can be amazed by, a colorful tote bag, much less a rose bush or a clover patch. So yeah, sometimes I feel like, activists are so busy activisting that they never take a breath to take a longer view. And I get it because it feels like an emergency all the time, never ending emergency. And in some ways it is. Innocent people are suffering all of the time. And we can keep kind of chasing after that, reacting to it. And that's fine. That's an option. Some people need to do it, God knows. Without them, things would fall apart much worse, much faster. For better or worse. But for people who have the chance to grow as humans, it is important that we do so. So if that's what you're working on, thank you. It's not easy and it's humbling as hell.